It's Gregory here. Big news, District 2 sports fans. Our brand new merch store is officially live. This show started from nothing but a passion for local sports, and thanks to your support, we've grown it into something special. And now we're excited to take the next step with our first ever District 2 merch line. You can now rep District 2 wherever you go with exclusive gear, from tees and pullovers to hoodies and koozies, all designed with that bold navy and gold you know you love. Here's the best part. We're running a limited time pre-order right now. Place your order before October 10th and everything will ship out starting on October 18th. And we set a big goal, 25 orders in our first week, so help us hit that milestone and show just how strong the District 2 community really is. Support the show, look great, and be part of the District 2 family. So head over to district2sports.bigcartel.com and grab your favorites before they're gone. You can also access our store on our Facebook page. We thank you again for supporting the District 2 Sports Podcast. And now let's get on to our episode.
You are now listening to the District 2 Sports Podcast, available on Podbean, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. It costs you nothing to smash that like button. Leave us a review and follow District 2 Sports on Facebook, X, and Instagram for more content and coverage. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
All right, so District 2 Sports Podcast, and we're excited to welcome back a familiar face, head football coach Paul Crowley of Newport University. Coach Crowley joined us last season, and now he's back with the Captains off to a hot 3-0 start. Fresh off a huge home win there against number 13 Susquehanna this past weekend. Coach, congratulations and welcome back.
Yeah, no, appreciate you having me back on. I'm always excited to talk about our team.
Well, Coach, I just want to talk about this past weekend. What was your immediate reaction to beating a top 15 team there at home?
It was definitely, a moment of happiness for our kids, especially a lot of the, guys that this will be my fourth year as head coach. So really our first recruiting class coming all the way through. So for those guys to get, the opportunity to experience beating a top 15 team, which is something, I was fortunate enough to do as a player back in the day and do as an assistant coach. For those guys to get to experience it, it was pretty cool, but also a feeling, I think, of understanding that, at the end of the day, it's just a week 3 game and there's certainly a lot more season to be played.
Talking more about the game, I mean, you guys kind of statistically dominated the game there. I mean, you guys had more first downs, outrushed them, outpassed them. I think you had the ball for like 13 more minutes than they did. What did you see on film from Susquehanna that you guys felt like you could take advantage of?
Yeah, I think the first thing we were really, going into the game that was, the ultimate thing we were concerned about was the weather. That tropical system off the coast or whatever it was, and initially they were calling for thunderstorms to move in during the game, so we didn't know when we'd be able to throw the ball, when it would turn into, kind of the floodgates open up or even lightning delays. So we were happy that we were able to play really the first 3 quarters on a dry day until it really started pouring. So we were able to, we felt like we could try to throw the ball on those guys a little bit. And we felt like we could pass block them probably better than we could run block them a little bit. So that was really the offensive plan, was to try to get those throws in while we could. And then defensively, that team has a really, really good quarterback and running back, and it was really figuring out how to neutralize those 2 guys.
Coach, in general, like throughout the season and kind of your philosophy, I mean, are you more like you want to be 50-50 there with the run pass, or are you okay with dominating the game with the passing yards? I mean, you guys threw for 374 on Saturday.
Yeah, I think you always strive for balance. The hardest teams to defend are able to do both. And you kind of put the onus on the defense to decide which one they want to defend, and then you're able to take advantage of the other. So we've been pretty fortunate to have a pretty good run game these last few years. So most teams go into it understanding it's old school, but it's our philosophy as well, that you got to run the ball and stop the run to win football games.
Coach, was there a player, maybe as far as leadership goes, or just a simple big play that kind of set the tone for you guys, let them know that, hey, we're here, we're ready to play?
One of the big plays for sure was we were actually down, I believe, 10 points going into the half with about a minute left. And Ethan Barham, for us, one of our tight ends, made a really good catch and run for a touchdown that made it a 31-27 game. And then the ensuing kickoff, they fumbled, and we were able to get another score right before the half. So there was a big 14-point swing there right before the half, and it really started with Ethan's play with just about a minute to go.
Yeah, talking about the defense. I mean, you guys, what was it, 31-27 there at halftime? The final score was 41-27. So you guys held them to 0 points in the second half. You mentioned the fumble, I think you had 3 interceptions as well. Held them to 2.1 yards per rush and 330 yards total defense there. What was some of the adjustments you guys made in the second half to kind of hold them to 0 points?
Yeah, a number of different things. So their first touchdown was actually the opening kickoff. So, that's obviously not really on the defense there. Then, by the fourth quarter, the rain had really started. So obviously that helps defensive football. But, in the third quarter, it was just being more disciplined in what we do. We are giving them some freebies as far as blown coverages or, not playing the quarterback or the running back based off who's supposed to play the dive. So, it's really just shoring up some fundamentals while continuing to play with, the aggression and the physicality we're accustomed to.
As I mentioned, how important is it for your program to get a win like this in front of your crowd there at Town Big Stadium?
It's always good in front of our home crowd, and there were, I think, 3,500 people at the game despite
Mm-hmm.
the weather conditions. So, going into it, they were projecting 7,000, 8,000 people. So when they show you that support, obviously, you feel a little bit of extra desire, a little extra pressure to make it worth their while that they're coming out to support you.
Coach, I want to look at last year real quick. You guys go 7-3, and in those 3 losses, you lose by an average of 6 points to number 9 Salisbury, number 7 Johns Hopkins, and to a good Dickinson College team. How do you handle the ebbs and flows of a season, and then also just your general thoughts on last year's team?
Yeah, it's interesting because the first 3 seasons I had as a head coach, we went 7-3 in the regular season each year. But kind of what's always true about football, it's really 3 very, very vastly different football teams. And last year I think we felt like we had a pretty talented team. And very early on in the year had some injuries in the Hopkins game, but then lost to our big conference game Salisbury, which was our first conference game of the year. So I was proud of the guys being able to rebound after that start and still win the last 5, despite postseason kind of being out of the picture at that point.
I do want to talk more about that Hopkins game. I think I'm going to say his name wrong. Desirski goes down, your quarterback, but Connor Berry has to step up. How did that experience for him having to step up in that game or just kind of play last year kind of set the tone for him this year?
Yeah, he did a phenomenal job. So it was a very, very strange game last year against Hopkins. Desirski gets hurt, I think, second series and ends up being out for the year. And then Connor comes in, and he actually got hurt in that game as well, the very next series, I believe. So the rest of that game was our third string quarterback. But from that point on, Connor took the starting job and has been phenomenal. He's as good a kid as you could ask the coach. Smart, reliable, tough, all those, intangibles you look for in a quarterback, and extremely competitive. So, we were really, really fortunate when Matt got hurt, who's, probably the best quarterback to ever play in our program, that we had another guy that was capable of stepping up and playing really well too.
I mean, how confident were you in him, like having to step in? I mean, the guy throws for, I think, 400 yards plus against Salisbury last year in that tough game there. Yeah, to talk about him and his play and what you kind of expected him going into last year.
You knew going in he had talent. You knew he had work ethic. All the things that you expect a quarterback to have. But I think any coach would be lying if they tell you what they really think they have in a quarterback until they see him actually go out there and do it with a live rush and guys trying to tackle him and all the other stuff. I've had plenty of quarterbacks that look great in practice and look completely different when it's actual tackle football. So we had confidence in him, but obviously once he put out a performance like that, our confidence in him only grew.
We mentioned the 7-3 record. Were there any areas that you identified at the end of last year that you wanted to improve upon coming into this season?
Yeah, I think a big point of emphasis for us as a team was 2-minute situations and situational football in general. We felt like in some of those losses, those situational football things, particularly 2-minute, we weren't as good as we wanted to be. And the players brought this up as well. Hey, if you're not good at something, let's make sure we practice it until we can be confident that we can be successful in those situations.
And what does it say about the NJAC? I mean, you guys go 5-1, don't make the playoffs, and Salisbury makes it to the I think they made the national semifinals last year. But how good of a conference is that for football?
I think the big thing is it's a deep conference and it's a physical conference. So, there's a lot of conferences out there where, hey, maybe you have to get up for 2 or 3 games, and the rest of them, you can kind of just show up and coast. But particularly, with some of these New Jersey teams that we play, they got big physical kids, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So, the toll it takes on you week in and week out playing against those kind of defenses. Certainly can have some wear and tear, but it also does set you up to be successful when you do get in the playoffs.
I want to ask about the offseason. I mean, you guys, like I said, lose those 3 games, really close ones. For the returning players, how did they approach the offseason? And then did you see anything from your players that kind of stood out to you that, like, hey, we're ready for 2025?
I think pretty early on in the offseason, we made a concerted effort to focus on team chemistry. And I thought our senior leaders, as well as some of our juniors, did a good job of really buying in and stepping up into leadership roles to make sure the culture was exactly where we wanted it to be. And that was pretty immediate when we got into the spring. You could see the difference. And I think that's so far carried over into the fall. So that was really what I was most excited to see in the offseason.
I know we've seen Connor Berry kind of really step up this year, but did you see any players, make any huge strides over the offseason that needed to step up this year for you guys to be successful?
I'll give a shout out to a couple guys, that aren't as big in names or those kind of things, but something I bring up to the team quite a bit is we're excited that we feel like we're a little bit deeper because, again, we've had now 4 years of recruiting classes. So like a guy like Donovan Woods, who came in as a running back, and we had converted him to a receiver. He'd had hamstring issues, quad issues, and worked his tail off to even be in position to compete, to be getting playing time. And then he works his butt off in camp, and then by trying opening game, he scores his first career touchdown as a junior. And there's examples of that throughout the team of guys that are 21 years old, 22 years old, that have really worked their way through the program and earned the right to be out there. And it's fun as a coach to see those guys get their rewards, but it also makes you a better, more mature football team.
We talked about it last year, I think, in our conversation, but for the offseason for you, I mean, how do you attack the offseason? I don't know how big it is on the D3 level, but as far as like the transfer portal and whatnot, how do you attack that and then also continue recruiting?
Yeah. I think the transfer portal, there was a lot of thought of how that would affect the Division III level. And quite honestly, it hasn't affected us as much as I might have guessed. For us, the transfers we get are usually guys that we were recruiting, out of high school that we knew a whole lot about. So we weren't bringing guys into our program that didn't fit our culture. Just we didn't know well enough to really know how they were going to affect our program. So for us, Connor's an example of a transfer, but it's guys we feel really good about, that we know they're high school coaches that, maybe they just want a little more playing time, or, realize they can come close to home in the state of Virginia and play D3 football at D1 facilities in front of, a D1 type crowd. So really it's those guys we recruited out of high school. Then, recruiting more generally, 99% of our team's from Virginia. So we try to spend a lot of time and a lot of due diligence on, scouring the state, getting to know the coaches, getting to know the players, and finding the guys that really, really love playing football. You kind of make an assumption that everybody that plays college football loves it, but there's a certain special breed that it just matters more to, and we try to hunt those guys out in the recruiting process.
When you are recruiting or, kind of attacking the portal, whatever it may be, I mean, you guys probably don't have to go very far there. I mean, where you're located, I mean, the Virginia Beach area, just kind of that area in general, has a lot of great talent as far as high school goes, and you have a ton of colleges right there too. So you can talk about that recruiting base as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was raised in Virginia Beach. I went to Lansdowne High School, and I've spent my whole coaching career either at CNU or William and Mary. So obviously, I'm very familiar with the 757 and the talent that this part of the state has. So that was first and foremost. We wanted to make sure we did a great job recruiting the area. And then, really the rest of the state of Virginia plays very good football as well. So, the greater Richmond area, Northern Virginia is where we found a lot of great offensive skill guys as well as quarterbacks. And then, even heading out west to Roanoke and Lynchburg and Charlottesville, there's different kinds of players, but there's good players throughout the state. And we feel like a team that's kind of a, all-star team with some of those best guys can be pretty successful nationally.
Coach, I'm going to ask one question, Florida Gators related. Do you have Percy Harvin on speed dial to come talk to the team, for a big win or get him pumped up?
I don't. I've seen him a couple times since high school, but I was actually closer with Damon McDaniel, who was our other receiver, that went to Florida State and ended up playing a little bit in the CFL. But it kind of starting to show my age that his son is at Maury High School and is a committed senior going, I think, North Carolina Central. So now I'm starting to realize that, man, I'm not as young as I once was anymore.
That's awesome. When you look at this 3-0 start, I mean, what stands out to you the most, like, as far as your players? Is it the execution, preparation, or the mindset going to these games, or all the above?
I've been pretty pleased with our focus through practice. It sounds coach speak. It sounds cliche, but the best teams are able to focus on those little details throughout the week of practice, and then when it comes time to play the game, match that attention to detail with the desire to go out there, play, have fun. And I think 3 weeks in, we've done a pretty good job, and it'll be a test for us this week going on the road for sure to be able to do that.
Every team seems to develop an identity. Through 3 games, how would you describe the team's identity on both sides of the ball?
I think offensively, our identity is really kind of like I alluded to earlier, but take advantage of what the defense gives us and just consistently execute. And then defensively, we've made an effort to become more aggressive, to try to blitz and get after offenses a little bit more and kind of, we use the term, dictate the terms of how the game's going to be played. So, offensively, I would say, efficient, and then defensively, I would say, aggressive.
And even in the wins and losses, there's always a tough stretch in the game itself. A turnover, momentum swing, or a big play by the opponent. How have you prepared your team to respond to those moments during the game?
I think you try to, a big part of that's what you do in the weight room, because the person that gets the most time with the kids is actually the strength and conditioning staff. So Coach Dean, our strength and conditioning coach, does a great job of building, both physical toughness, but more so mental toughness with the kids. And, we do a lot of different things with them in practice to try to simulate those situations. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of it does come back to recruiting. If you find those kids that have already faced adversity in their life, and, football means a lot to them, those kids are, going to be in a better position to overcome adversity on the football field. So, it sounds simplistic, but if you find, tough kids, you'll usually have a tough football team.
Like we said, guys had a huge win over Susquehanna there, huge game at home. How do you get your players to, enjoy the moment, but at the same time, quickly turn the page and refocus on the next game? I think you guys go to, I'm going to say this wrong, probably Rowan on Saturday.
Yeah, we go to Rowan, an undefeated team, on Saturday at their place, and it's a traditional power in Division III football. They've played for national championships, so it's a really tough opponent. And I think you just, you try to emphasize before the game the importance of whether we had beaten Susquehanna or lost to them, that the focus needs to become on the next opponent, and then really emphasizing it to the guys as much as you possibly can, and then more so trusting your leadership group to echo that message when it's the locker room and the coaches aren't there, and what they're seeing from particularly the younger guys on the team.
I want to ask about the schedule. I mean, you play in the NJAC, which is a more traditional, like, Northeast conference there. I think you're 3 of your next 4 actually on the road. So how do you prepare you guys and keep them fresh for these long road trips on the weekends?
Yeah, you adjust practice schedule, this week for sure, because we played on our grass field this week, and, it was a heavy grass field, so legs are tired. So you adjust what you're doing in practice a little bit to make sure they're fresh. And then, we made a decision over the bye week to be pretty light on the guys, understanding, we had those road games coming up. We had a 8-game stretch to end the season. So understanding you have an early bye week, there's some desire to practice hard and continue to improve, which we certainly were trying to improve, but we also were trying to be cognizant of their freshness and their ability to, play at their fastest, play at their most comfortable throughout the rest of the season.
And coach, as a fan, you kind of look at November 8th being like, hey, that's the one here for the season. How do you, kind of talked to us a little bit earlier, how do you get your team to make sure they focus on Rowan and not look further than that November 8th contest against Salisbury?
Yeah, I think there's been examples of us over the previous 3 years of, um, losing games that maybe we felt like we should have won. So I think when something's happened in the past, there's obviously examples you can point to with your team of, hey, we're in a similar situation, time X, okay, and this happened, so let's make sure we're doing the things that we can possibly do to prevent that from happening. And then, I think if you prepare really well, it allows you to play loose on a Saturday. So it's again cliche, but it's really about the week of practice leading up to the game to allow you to be confident when you do go out there.
And the final one for me, I just want to ask you, much as you want to share with us, what are the keys to the game this Saturday? You get another win there on the road, me and Jack.
Yeah, no, I think we talk about the same things week in and week out, but it's running the ball and stopping the run. If you're not able to do those two things, usually, it's going to be a long day for you. And then, obviously, I think everybody knows turnover margin is a big indicator of success. So we always focus on those two things. And then, I think, matching, having really good intensity when we come out on Saturday is going to be key as well. They have a really, really aggressive defense. Being able to handle that's going to be tough. And then offensively, they're cruising. They're one of the top teams in the country in yards per play and passing efficiency and a bunch of different metrics. So it's certainly going to be another tough challenge for us, all three phases of the game, really.
Well, Coach, I do appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy. I know you're on the way home there after doing some practice and whatnot. So we do appreciate your time. We'll be following you guys on Saturday. Hope you guys get to 4-0. So we do appreciate your time, Coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm always happy to talk ball, especially, in the state of Virginia. So I'm happy to come on whenever I can help.
There you heard it. You heard it from Coach Paul Crowley there at Christopher Newport. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
I want to thank Coach Paul Crowley for coming on and speaking with us. They did get that win at Rowan University last Saturday. They won 49-41 in double overtime, so they stay perfect on the year, 4-0. The captains they look good this year. So they're in the NJAC. They have a key game coming up against Salisbury on November 8th. But like we talked about, just got to stay focused. They have Vermont State coming up on this Saturday. They're in Castleton, Vermont. So good luck to the captains and good luck to Coach Crowley. Maybe they can get to the in-state tournament and where they belong. So we thank them so much for coming on. We'll have 3 episodes this week. So we'll have this episode. We have one on Wednesday with a ODAC player, and then Friday we'll have a local high school coach on for their episodes. So a lot coming this week, and next week we have some other ones lined up as well. Just a reminder, you guys, we have an event coming up, a benefit on October 25th. Please look into that. It's for the suicide awareness prevention there in Danville, Virginia. And also just mention, as you heard in our intro, place your orders before October 10th. That way we can get your orders in for October 18th when we're in town. So we'll have all that stuff up there. Yeah, so I'll be up there October 17th. I think you're either going to be at the Radford game versus Glenver, or we'll be at the Patrick Henry game that Friday. Then we'll be in Danville for the Averett and Hampton Sydney game. And I have a Monday Roanoke Valley sports meeting or sports conference with Roger Ayers on that Monday. And then Wednesday I will be at Floyd County for the Hargrave and Oak Hill scrimmage too. So just a lot coming up. So I'll be in town. I'm currently in Jacksonville, as you all know. We'll meet up with Devin and Pops and Big Greg for some fun over the next couple weeks. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll have some more stuff out this week. Appreciate you guys.